Now, if you're anything like me, when it comes to laptops, one screen simply is just not enough. I can do 90% of my workflow on it, but when I want to start swapping between screens, it gets a little bit tedious. Now, if you've got the money to spend on a PC and three extra monitors like I've got going on over here, then please go do so. But if you're not in that position where you can spend that amount of money on a PC and external monitors, you might want to stay into touch in this video. Today, we're looking at something quite special. So let's get into it. So here we have it. This is the P6 dual screen laptop screen extender. Now, these are predominantly used in more of an office workspace where if you are predominantly working from a laptop, like a 14-inch laptop, you don't have access to external screens, or if you don't have access to external monitors. So what this allows you to do is basically change your single screen setup into a dual screen setup, which is quite cool. Now, so on the back here, we do have a 14-inch screen, 1920 by 1080p full HD, 16 hertz refresh rate, 300 CD/M squared, so I'm assuming that's going to be more of the brightness, and then 1,000:1 ratio, which I'm assuming is going to be the contrast. Now on the back here, so this is what the layout's going to be. We have the monitor, we have a USB-A to USB Type-C, we have a USB Type-C to USB Type-C, or we have HDMI to mini HDMI. Again, this all depends on the kind of laptop you have, but this is what we're working with. So we've got P6 is the model number, we've got 16:9 ratio, the size is 359 by 213 by 23, refresh rate is 60 hertz, and all that good stuff. And as well, this works predominantly on the 14-inch laptop. So let's get it unboxed, see what we're working with, and see, is this actually going to be beneficial? So let's get into it. So first off, packaging extremely well. Definitely extremely well. We've got a user guide. We have, I believe, a setup guide, which is going to tell you everything about inside. And then we have the actual external monitor. On the inside here, we do have all of our cables. Like I said, we've got USB Type-A to Type-C, Type-C to Type-C, and HDMI to micro HDMI, or mini HDMI, I think it is. And then we have our monitor. Let's have a quick look at the cables. So the cables themselves, so we've got the USB Type-C to a 90-degree USB Type-C, which I do like. We do have our HDMI to micro HDMI, as well as USB Type-A to USB Type-C, which is quite nice. So they really have thought of all different types of laptops, as in if you're using a Mac or a Windows or a notebook or something like that. So this is the monitor. So we've got quite a nice carbon fiber feel going on here, which is quite nice. And on the back, we have the same, as well as we do have a little metal brace there, which is the P6. And we actually have a little, oh, what we got here? So Titan, loose Titan. So what's this? Ah, so we have a little stand as well. That's quite cool. That's quite a nice little design. And you got little different increments here as well. So that is actually quite cool. So what this is going to allow us to do when we actually put it on the laptop, instead of the screen just wobbling about, we'll be able to use this as well for extra support. Right, let's have a look. So for these, you just pull out, and then it goes on the back. So we'll pull out first, give this opened up, and then there is our screen. So let's get this peeled. That is so, I love doing that. So satisfying. And here we have it. So how this essentially is going to work, this is going to sit on the back of the laptop, but we do have quite a large amount of extension there. So that's one thing to look for. Obviously, this isn't going to be set to a specific laptop, but it does have that. On the top here, we do have a little bridge that's going to sit on the lid of the laptop screen. And then on the sides, on all four sides, we do have more rubber padding as well. So we know fine well the laptop we're putting this on is not going to be damaged whatsoever. So monitor itself, we've got the actual 14-inch monitor, on-off button, plus or minus. I'm going to assume that's going to be for the settings. This is a 14-inch model, which is widely considered the sweet spot for most modern laptops. So here are the technical specs that we need to know. You get a full 180-degree viewing angle, essential since these screens are literally wrapping around the peripheral vision. One of the biggest selling points for the P6 is how light it is. The net weight of this unit is around 1.16 kilos, which is around 2.5 pounds for you guys overseas. And it's designed to fit laptops from around 13 inches up to 17.3 inches using a telescopic clamping frame. The connection setup. This is where it gets convenient. The P6 features an all-in-one Type-C setup. If you have a full function USB-C port on your laptop, you only need a single cable per screen to handle video, audio and power. The ports on the device, you have two USB-C ports and a mini HDMI port. The P6 isn't just a dual screen mode. The hinge allows for up to 180 degrees of rotation, so you can mirror your screen for presentations, you can extend this massive two-screen desktop feel, use its portrait mode for coding or reading long PDF documents. Surprisingly, the built-in speaker in this unit is not going to replace your studio headphones, but it's a nice little backup if your laptop speakers are covered by the bracket. It's also worth noting it works more with just laptops. You can hook up a smartphone like a Samsung with the EX, or even a gaming console like a Nintendo Switch. Now the quick spec cheat sheet. The panel is a dual 14-inch IPS anti-glare. The resolution is 1920 by 1080p full HD. The brightness comes in at 300 nits. The color garment is 45% NTSC. The weight is around 1.16 kilos, which is ultra lightweight. And compatibility, remember, it fits up to 13-inch to 17.3-inch laptops. Ports, we have dual USB Type-C and one mini HDMI, and the rotation is 180 degrees with adjustable hinges. So if you do want to go check one of these out for yourself, please do check the links in the video description. So I'm going to pop that on the back of the monitor while opening it. I'm going to sit it on the top where it's going to rest, and that is pretty much how it's going to look. So I'm predominantly going to keep mine like that because I want it more of like a focal length. So the bit on the back, I am going to move that out just so it's going to protect the hinges. So I'm going to move this down to level 2. So there we go. So that is solid. Yes, this has got a bit of wobble, fair enough, but that is solid. So I'm pretty happy about that. Now we need to get that connected to that. So we are going to be using USB Type-C to USB Type-C cable. So I'm going to plug this into there. I'm going to pull this around the monitor and plug it into the side. So as we can see, P6 logos come straight on. So as you can see, I've got my main monitor going on here, and I also have another monitor on the side here. Now the settings on the monitor itself, so if we press the off button at the bottom, we do have our setting menu, which is down here. Now what I can do from this is I can change the signal source, the low blue light, volume, and mute. We can change the aspect ratio. Color temp, at the minute it's set to sRGB, but you can do your own red, blue, and green. You can mess around with that as well, if you do say so. And then we can also change the brightness. We have hue, saturation, DCR, eco, sharpness, backlight, which is quite nice. Turn the volume off, copyright. So that's essentially doing a 4K test onto essentially a 1080p monitor. Which is currently going in at 60 Hertz. So we're just doing a little gameplay there. But the thing is, what this gives us the availability to do with a single extra monitor is if you're predominantly just using a single monitor for doing all your workflow, this allows you to transform it massively. So now you can use this as an external monitor. So now you have two viewing angles. So you can have one screen predominantly, say, for emails. You can have a secondary screen for your workflow, Excel, or your spreadsheets. Like, if you can't afford like a full setup like I've got going on over here, which is extremely expensive, but if you can add an external monitor to your already perfectly good laptop and use it in this area, it just makes life so much easier. I know I benefit massively for having more than one monitor. Instead of having my concentration on one thing, I can have mine detailed on 3 different monitors, so I don't have to worry about what I'm doing. I'm editing video on one, I've got my scripts in the top left-hand side, I've got my PDF and my chat in the bottom left-hand side. And for me, it makes life easier and my productivity a lot quicker instead of me having to chop and change through different windows and that. So having something like this is actually really incredible. Because again, in this sort of scenario, which I would normally work in, I have my editing side there, which I can work with, but now I've got another monitor over here which I can have my workflow on. So I've got my previous videos, but if I want to chop and change it and check my emails without disturbing this screen, it's right there, it's available, and honestly, it's actually quite a good little bit of kit. So guys, there we have it. That was the monitor review for the, I can never pronounce it properly, Siaviala 15.6. Now, this is a dual screen extender. Like I said, we've used it on the MacBook, but the one thing we didn't do is actually test to see if it could fit onto a 17.3-inch laptop. So I'm going to quickly do that now before I go anywhere. Well, here I have an MSI HX 17-inch. Little bit overkill, don't get me wrong. If you're going to be using a monitor like this, I'm just testing it on purposes. So, 17-inch laptop, let's have a little look-see. It actually fits. Okay. We're going to quickly do a test here. I was joking. I didn't realise it was actually going to fit, but it does say on the website 17.3 inch. Check this out. And there we go. We have 2 monitors. So it doesn't just have to be a small form factor computer. But that's pretty impressive. So you're not locked in on a 14-inch laptop. Don't get me wrong. It looks better because the screens are equally sized. Obviously 17-inch compared to this is obviously completely different. If you do want to go check one of these out for yourself, please do check the links in the video description and just increase the level of productivity you have, especially your stress levels. I think that's the one thing something like this has massively reduced, is my stress levels by constantly working on a laptop. So go check them out.